Somewhere along the way, minimalism became a look. White walls, neutral clothes, smooth wood tables with one carefully placed plant. A lifestyle that promises peace as long as you can afford it. The irony is almost perfect. What started as a way to escape consumerism turned into another branch of it. There are now minimalist brands, minimalist influencers, even minimalist furniture that costs more than a small car. People throw away half of what they own and buy simpler versions of the same things. We started believing that owning less was the goal, as if emptiness could save us. But minimalism was never supposed to be about how your home looks. It was about how your mind feels. You can have a perfectly clean apartment and still live in mental chaos. You can count your possessions and still feel heavy. Because clutter isn't just physical, it's emotional, digital, mental. And buying another beige lamp won't fix that. Minimalism, in its original form, wasn't a trend. It was a rebellion. A quiet refusal to let things, jobs, and expectations take over your life. It was about freedom, not furniture. But in the age of social media, even simplicity became something to perform. We started posting our empty shelves and calling it enlightenment. We forgot that minimalism wasn't supposed to be photogenic. It was supposed to be honest. You can't decorate your way to peace. You have to subtract your way to it.
Minimalism existed long before someone decided to film it in perfect lighting, long before the word became a hashtag. It was born out of philosophy, not design. Zen monks practiced it centuries ago, not to make their homes beautiful, but to make their minds still. Stoics in ancient Rome wrote about owning little and wanting less because they understood that the more you crave, the less free you become. Simplicity was never an aesthetic choice. It was a path to peace. Those early forms of minimalism weren't about perfection. They were about limits, about knowing where enough ends and where obsession begins. The point wasn't to escape life, but to meet it with fewer distractions. A clean room doesn't guarantee a clear head, but removing what's unnecessary, both outside and inside, gives space for awareness. And awareness is what the whole idea was built on. When people today talk about minimalism, they often focus on the visible part, the furniture, the number of clothes, the color palette. But the real work happens in silence, where nobody can see it. It's not about throwing things away. It's about learning to stop reaching for more. The problem isn't that we have too much stuff. It's that we've forgotten why we have any of it at all. True minimalism asks simple questions. Why do I need this? What am I trying to fill? Who told me that more is better? And once you start asking, it's hard to stop, because you begin to see how much of your life isn't really yours. Minimalism isn't about subtraction for the sake of emptiness. It's about subtraction for the sake of meaning.
We live in an age of overflow, not just of things, but of everything. Information, opinions, options, notifications, advice. Our minds scroll endlessly, even when our bodies stop moving. We were told that technology would free us, but somehow it only made us busier. Every quiet moment became another opportunity to consume, another video, another email, another dopamine hit. We don't rest anymore. We just recharge enough to keep scrolling. The new clutter isn't physical, it's digital. Our homes may look cleaner than ever, but our minds are full of tabs we never close. That's why minimalism feels so relevant again, not as a style, but as a survival skill. It's no longer about organizing your closet, it's about protecting your attention. Because in this economy, attention is currency, and we keep giving it away for free. We can live with less stuff, but we can't live without focus. Every ad, every feed, every trend is designed to steal a few seconds of it, until our lives are made up of fragments, half-read messages, half-finished projects, half-felt emotions. Real minimalism today is about learning to say no, not to things, but to noise. To stop reacting to everything the world throws at us and start choosing what deserves our presence. It's not easy. Silence feels uncomfortable now. We've trained ourselves to need distraction, the same way others once needed possessions. But beneath that discomfort lies something rare: space. And in that space, life starts to breathe again. Because the opposite of overload isn't emptiness, it's clarity. And clarity is what we've been missing most.
For most of human history, wealth meant owning things. Now, it means owning time. Time is the one resource you can't produce, outsource, or replace. And yet, it's the first thing we give away. To screens, to meetings, to things that don't matter. We spend hours optimizing our lives, automating our routines, chasing efficiency. But we never stop to ask what we're saving all that time for. Minimalism at its core isn't about scarcity. It's about reclaiming ownership, not of possessions, but of hours. It asks the simplest question: where does your time actually go? Because most of us don't lack freedom. We just spend it badly. We fill our schedules with obligations that don't feed us. We work jobs that drain us. We say yes out of guilt and fear of missing out. And then we wonder why life feels so short. The truth is, time always runs at the same speed. It's the weight of what we carry that makes it feel heavier. Minimalism is the art of lightness, not by removing everything, but by removing what steals your hours without giving anything back. A day spent doing one thing with full attention is worth more than a week spent multitasking through noise. We talk about time management as if life were a spreadsheet, but time isn't something to manage, it's something to experience. And you can't experience it fully if it's always being divided, monetized, or sold. You don't need more time. You need less distraction. That's why minimalism feels radical in a culture obsessed with productivity. Because it's not about doing more with less. It's about finally doing less and calling that enough. The richest person in the world isn't the one with the biggest house. It's the one who can sit quietly for an hour without needing to be anywhere else. We talk about decluttering closets, but never about decluttering hearts. We hold on to people the same way we hold on to old clothes, not because they still fit, but because we're afraid of the emptiness that comes after letting go. We keep friendships that drain us, habits that numb us, goals that no longer belong to us. We tell ourselves it's loyalty or love, but most of the time it's just fear. Fear of silence, fear of loneliness, fear of facing who we are without all the noise around us. Emotional minimalism starts where material minimalism ends. It's not about cutting people off or running away from pain. It's about learning to recognize when something has already left you and having the grace to stop holding on. The truth is, everything changes, and pretending it doesn't only fills your life with ghosts. The hardest clutter to let go of is not the stuff in your house, but the stories you keep telling yourself about who you used to be. Letting go doesn't mean losing. It means creating space, for peace, for rest, for something new to arrive. Minimalism in that sense isn't about emptiness. It's about capacity. It's about becoming light enough to move again. You don't need to carry every relationship, every failure, every version of yourself.
You just need to carry what still feels alive. When you start practicing emotional minimalism, you stop asking, "What do I want to have?" and start asking, "What do I want to keep feeling?" That's when minimalism stops being about control and becomes about trust. Trust that what's meant for you will stay, and that space is not the absence of love, but the room it needs to grow.
In a world built on more, choosing enough is a radical act. The system we live in doesn't just sell products, it sells speed, identity, urgency. You're supposed to want a better job, a newer phone, a faster life. It's not about need anymore. It's about motion. As long as you keep moving, the machine keeps running. Minimalism interrupts that rhythm. It says, stop, breathe, choose. And that small pause is dangerous because the moment you stop running, you start to see how little of this race ever belonged to you. Modern life depends on distraction. If people were calm enough to think, half the economy would collapse. So minimalism, real minimalism, isn't just personal self-care. It's rebellion. Not against wealth, but against the illusion that consumption equals meaning. It doesn't shout. It doesn't organize protests. It simply opts out. Quietly, consistently, without apology. Every time you decide not to buy something you don't need, not to check your phone before bed, not to chase the next validation, you're reclaiming a little piece of your autonomy. That's why minimalism isn't sterile or cold. It's a way to protect your energy from a world that profits off your exhaustion. It's not anti-pleasure, it's anti-manipulation. And in that sense, it's deeply human. It reminds us that joy doesn't come from the things we own, but from the moments that can't be owned at all. The walk at sunset, the friend who listens, the quiet after a long day. The more the world tries to sell us simplicity, the more real simplicity becomes an act of defiance. Minimalism was never a product to buy. It was always a permission to stop.
At some point, you realize that minimalism isn't about living with less. It's about living with yourself. When the noise fades and the clutter settles, what's left isn't emptiness. It's you. Unfiltered, a little lost maybe, but finally visible. We spend so much of life filling space with things, with goals, with people, because silence feels uncomfortable. But silence isn't the enemy. It's the doorway. It's where you start hearing your own thoughts again, after years of listening to everyone else's. That's what minimalism gives back. Not perfection, not purity, but presence. A chance to be here, not somewhere else. To breathe without performing, to rest without guilt, to want less and feel more. Minimalism doesn't promise happiness. It just clears the room for it to enter. You'll still own things. You'll still get distracted. You'll still want. But maybe you'll start noticing when you've had enough. And that moment of noticing is the whole point. Because peace doesn't come from what you throw away. It comes from what you stop chasing. So no, minimalism was never about stuff. It was about space. In your home, in your mind, and in your heart. The kind of space where life, finally, has room to breathe. Think about it. Just think about it.